All right. And I believe we are live.
Let's
We're
go,
live.
baby.
Don't worry, chat. Ignore the timer. Ignore the timer. Welcome back
Hey, what's up, chat?
to another Helldivers experience. The Helldivers podcast brought to you by the two most handsome Helldivers, myself and MrPipz.
Hey.
And we got a couple other ugly guys on here today. We've got Phaseshifter back. Phase,
Sexy
welcome back,
Phaseshifter.
Phase. No, he knows.
You're getting a bit too big for your boots. You're getting a bit too big for your boots.
He already knows. And we're also welcoming a new guest, Reginald. A couple of you guys probably already seen his videos before. Let's just shout out one video from him. He posted this advanced tutorial on automatons very early on in the game. And he posts Helldivers on and off. He plays a lot of Dark Tide. Welcome, Reginald.
Hey, thanks so much for having me. I really appreciate it.
Welcome.
Of course.
Yo.
Click their links in the description. Phase, Reginald, you guys already follow MrPipz, I bet. Today, we're going to be talking about not the nerf situation. We're going to be talking about the game's difficulty. And we're going to give feedback on ideas for making the game more difficult instead of making the weapons feel worse to use. So we've got a couple different segments for you guys today. And before we get into any of that, let's do the sponsor. Guys, check out the Helldivers 2 Democracy Shop. They got keychains. I got a, pre-nerf breaker. This was before they nerfed it. And we got the Dominator before they nerf this one. You never know. And they've got some other t-shirts, sweatshirts, some other cool stuff on here as well. That one's in the description, and I'll do an exclamation point keychain here in a second. So be sure to check them out. They send me all the merch, and I like those guys a lot. And they pay us the big bucks. Okay, so be sure to check them out. A lot of people like the keychains already. So to start it off, you guys already know all of us left feedback. I just got done watching Pips's video on his thoughts on some of the balance changes and whatnot. We've talked so much about balance. You guys know I put that balance feedback document basically covering the breakpoints of the weapons. But as you guys could tell from the title, Helldivers is going to end up reworking a lot of this stuff. And I'm just going to pull up the game director's message. We'll just summarize it because they said basically they didn't meet their targets for kind of what they wanted to do with the escalation of freedom. And they mentioned their aim within the next 60 days. So of course who knows? We might get a hotfix or a patch early this week. But some of the stuff I kind of wanted to talk about was one thing they mentioned was rethinking their design approach to primary weapons and creating a plan for making combat more engaging. So, kind of what I went over with the weapon breakpoints, it seems like their philosophy on weapons was kind of making your primary weapon not useless, but ineffective, unreliable, as we call it. And then they also mentioned reworking chargers. So I think there's a couple different things they might go about with chargers, like, possibly lowering the armor on them, possibly making it so they don't chase you around in a 360. But that's an interesting one to me, reworking chargers. But I also, they're re-examining their approach to balance. Their intention is that balance should be fun, not balanced for the sake of balance. Well, I think it was that their intention used to be that balance was for the sake of balance, but now they want to balance for fun. So they're going to be reworking the combat system, basically making it so that hopefully we can use our primary weapons more often and we can rely upon them. So one thing that I noticed is that when a lot of us are leaving our feedback, I always see these comments, oh, you guys just want the primary weapons to be overpowered and make the game easy, right?
Yeah.
Pips, you get a lot of that, right?
Yeah, I do.
It gets it the most, I think.
Yeah.
Reginald, did you get any of that on your last upload?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, a lot of people took my comments as being like, I'm trying to nerf the challenge of the game, and there was a lot of skill issue commentary as well. And it's like, I am trying to rework the balance of the game so that the game can be just as challenging. Preferably even harder would be ideal, right?
Yeah.
But you get to actually shoot your gun instead of feel like you're shooting a Nerf dart.
Yeah.
And
all the people that say that suck at the game.
Yeah, I feel like
so true. I'm trash. It's over.
I feel like if you leave the comment, you just want the game to be easy. You are implying that the game is hard to you.
That's the people that I meant. That's the people that I meant. That
Yeah,
actually say that shit are the people that probably most likely don't play on max difficulty at all, and that's why they say that, because you can't think this game is hard, right? Like overall, this game is not hard. Like if you have played any game that is like, you know, at least challenging PvE, you would understand that this game is, I would say, like, what on a scale of 0 to 10, for like, how hard do you think the hardest difficulty is in this game?
7.
Yeah, I'd probably in the same place.
Yeah. I think so.
Honestly, in terms of pure difficulty, I feel like it's actually not pure difficulty. We talked about this. We did an episode of this podcast. We had Clay on. And actually, we're going to look at Clay's document. We literally made an episode of this podcast called Why You Have a Skill Issue in This Game, where we talked about the mechanics of the game. Like, is this game actually like take a lot of mechanical skill? I would say, honestly, movement in this game is more important than aim.
Yeah.
Except when you fight the bots, you definitely have to hit their weak points. But like the game is more of a knowledge check. Like, do you know the Bile Titan's head health? Like how many rockets it takes to kill him, or like one rocket plus one other thing. Like we've talked about a bunch of that stuff throughout these different episodes. And that's what we're going to talk about today as well. So Reginald, you pointed this out in your last video. What is the meta in this game? You might pick up on this. Yeah, there you go. You picked up on it. And what does that mean in normie terms?
Yeah, so I picked this concept up because, you know, people used to play a lot of Overwatch or whatever some years ago, and like the meta was holding W when you start getting win, right? You're winning and you want to hold W, you want to go forwards and try to press the advantage. But in this game, the advantage is in staying away from everything because you can't really engage. You want to be running away, so you're buying yourself more time so you can chuck more stratagems so that you can kill more things with the weapons that actually do damage.
Yeah. So
run away.
So there was this meme that got shared around, and I feel like this is a good meme because it definitely hyperbolizes both viewpoints. It's the gameplay the devs want versus the gameplay the players want. And the devs are like, you're getting overrun, call in a 500 on our position, and the players just want to be Doom Guy. Now, I feel like this hyperbolizes both sides a little bit, because a lot of us are just like, there already are reliable weapons in the game. We want the bad weapons to feel like the good weapons. We like, do you guys expect to be Doom Guy in this game? Go ahead.
If I can interject, these images are the same. And the only difference here is that the top image is really awesome right until you instantly die from the charger you can't see coming from behind you. Yeah. And so if this was actually how the game played, it would be very fun. The problem is shooting your primary weapons into bugs is just an ammo expenditure that doesn't work, right? So it would be cool, like if this were the top picture, we would all be having a lot more fun, which is kind of what I was gunning for. It's like, let's just spawn more enemies but make our guns kill them, so we can all stand around like this and then throw our stratagems when they matter. Because these pictures are the same, or would hypothetically be the same.
Yeah, I definitely feel that one. All right, so a lot of the BS out the way. The devs basically already said they will rework what they think about like primary weapons and whatnot, because we obviously kind of know their philosophy on primary weapons, and they will rework that in a way to make the fights more engaging. So first off, I would say, what are some of the less engaging things that kind of cause frustrations? I'll start off with this other meme, which just like showcases what you talked about in your last video, Reginald. I think adding more telegraphed attacks, because like, you know, on the left, you got the cannon turret. It gives you its little light before it shoots its turret. Telegraphs its attack, easy to notice, slow. Versus the command bunker turrets they're so hard to see for some reason. They will one-shot you as well, and they ragdoll you. I feel like the command bunker turrets are like the epitome, is that the right word? Of epitome.
Maybe I'm wrong.
Yeah, they're the epitome of what people complain about, just like insta-death, infinite ragdolls, and they're really hard to notice. Like, they don't make a sound, they can instantly kill you. They shoot twice, so they have 2 chances to instantly kill you, and they also ragdoll you like insane. Like, I would say the command bunker turret, out of all the things people complain about, I never hear anyone complain about this turret. Well, I guess someone made a meme about it. But this is the number one frustration when it comes to enemies in the game, I would say.
Yeah, I hate these turrets. I like cannon turrets. I think cannon turrets are fun because you can bait their shot, and then you have this skill mechanic that's based on timing and your skill and your knowledge of the game, and that makes it fun, right? So, yeah, I felt this one.
It feeds into the sense of the fantasy, doesn't it? You see it flash, and you know, oh, I've got to dive now, and when you dive and you don't get hit, you feel like you've kind of succeeded at something. Whereas if you just get one-shotted, or you turn to face the factory strider that's just landed behind you, and you only know it's there because it made a sound 5 seconds ago, and you're met with a double shot from the turret and you die, that just makes you feel like you've been cheaped.
Yeah.
It's that sense of dopamine hit you get from diving and dodging. It feels badass, and we want more of that.
I think the one thing that the devs need to understand that would right away make the game feel better is that no matter what game you're playing, one of the least favorite thing for gamers is a few things, right? One, nobody likes to get stun locked in general. And 2, nobody likes to get killed from something they have no information of. And once you eliminate those things, what you naturally do is present a gap for players and an ability to get better at specific mechanics. So for example, if you're clearly getting, there's no feedback from the impaler when he's hitting you, right? Like when he starts stun locking you, there's just the timer that eventually you get used to, but it will stun lock you. But if there was some kind of notification on the screen, maybe it lights up red or something, like as we've discussed in the past, also like with the problem of just enemies not doing that in general, especially against the bots, you would have the ability to time your jump or movement or whatever it is. And that way you could, better yourself as a player. But all of these things that the meme that ThiccFilA showed right now, that's a problem. And nobody enjoys that, because you don't feel in control of the situation and you're getting killed by something that is completely out of your control. And that will never be fun.
Yeah. And I just want to add to that point too, is like, okay, so if you add a mechanic around telegraphing, if you add more telegraphing mechanics, you can actually up the number of enemies without necessarily making the game impossible to play. You could really up the number of enemies. And I'm not going to talk about this too much. It's obviously my hobby horse, but Darktide solves this problem by telegraphing. I played a duos game of the hardest difficulty mode the other day, and we killed 3,500 enemies.
Yeah.
And any one of those enemies can kill you in just a couple hits. We killed 3,500, and we were able to do that because the telegraphing lets you fight them. So you're always engaged in a conflict where it's your skill versus all of the enemies' telegraphed attacks, and your ability to balance all the different threats is the mechanic that's really fun and really detailed. And we could do that in Helldivers too. I think it's on the same engine. So like we could have 3,500 enemies in a game in Helldivers 2, which would be insane. When I look at the screens of some of these level 10 games, I was watching one of Odo's the other day, there's like lots of enemies on screen, but imagine way more.
Yeah.
I agree. All right, so one other thing I would like to point out is we ran a poll in chat. Some of these votes changed from the last podcast we did. We did a poll, what difficulty do you play on? 50% of people voted 7 through 8, and then it was like split between 20% less than 6 and 20% 9 to 10. So I would also say we're probably more of the hardcore community, most likely, right? I would like to see them balance the game around 7 instead of 5, because it feels like they balance the game around 5, like the power of the weapons. I think that once you play this game a bit longer, most players probably are on 7, in my opinion, even though our poll is skewed a little bit more towards 9 and 10. I mean, do you guys think most people play on like 7 and whatnot? That seems like the difficulty for most people, where the game is like challenging, but it's not overly challenging, and they can kind of chill and play it.
It's also efficient to play on 7, right?
Yeah.
Like, there's no really benefit to play on 9 and 10 in this game. Like, what do you gain really?
Unless you just want
7 is a little bit chiller. Yeah, unless you want a challenge.
Yeah.
I'm guessing that's what you're going to say. But apart from that, yeah, I would understand why people would play 7. Once again, there's no incentive to play 9 and 10, and even 9 and 10, you know, it's not like super hard, right? Like, you can definitely, if you're a team, even without any communication, because how this aggro in this game works, like, you can divide like 4 people, just 2 go there, 2 this way, or even like if you're decent players, everyone goes their own way, and the aggro just spreads. Like, it usually either goes to one person or the other, and the other 2 are chilling. Like, how many games have we had like that? Like, well, I would watch your streams, and you're on your own, for example. There's nothing around you. Your team's fighting on the other side. You just complete the mission, a bounce back. You know, like, it's not that hard. Yeah.
The other thing I would say is, so just to sort of compound that point you were making, Thick, which is, you know, what should we balance around? If all the players playing, let's just say the bulk of the player base is on 5. Let's just like assume that that's the case, just for the sake of argument. We should still balance around 7, because the people who are playing on 5 are here to have fun. They're clearly not here to max out their challenge points and like do the hardest thing possible. They just want to have a good time. That's the psychology they're engaging with, right? So if we balance around 7, then those people at 5 are still just going to have a really fun time just shooting everything and just like blowing stuff up and get blown up with their own 500 kilograms because they can't throw. Like, it's going to be great. They're going to have a good time. And the game balanced around 7 will give the right distribution of damage around the types of enemies that are actually common at higher levels, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is there too many difficulty levels?
Yeah.
Are they making life hard for themselves by saying we've got 10 difficulty increments?
I think so.
How many? I mean, it worked in Helldivers 1.
I think
right?
When they're like on the conversation of is there too much difficulty levels, like 1 through 3 could just be gone, and I don't think anyone would notice. With that being said, though, I think it just comes down to what they decide to balance around. So, like, if you think in terms of, oh, there was 9 difficulties on launch, so where should we balance around? And maybe they picked right in the middle at 5. And that's where I think maybe the issue is. Whereas if they said, let's balance around the first, like, hardest difficulty, which is 7, then I don't think that point would necessarily be relevant. I do think there's too many difficulties, though.
Why? Let's see. For me, it's like, what is the final part of any game? It's literally the end game, right? And even though this game doesn't have like a specific, very, you know, something that you can isolate as end game, I would assume that, you know, the best thing we can say is like Super Helldive, and Helldive is the end game, right? Like, that's where it's the highest difficulty when it gets crazy and everything like that. The only reason I can see why not balance around that, and I don't mean this in a bad way or anything, not to disrespect anyone, but I think it's because none of the devs either play on that difficulty or have really tried to go all out on that difficulty, and they think they look at it as, oh, it's just there for the sweats, and we're just going to be playing at 5, right? Other than that, like, if you really played the game at that level, you would also try to balance the game around that level. I think that makes sense, no?
Yeah. For sure.
Because you'd be like, oh, this works on 5, man. But hey, look, hey, Johnson, come get over here, bro. This doesn't work on 10. Maybe we should take a look at this, like 7, 8, and then also 9, because it works on 5, but it sucks on 10. What can we do? Like, maybe we need to look at it. And I feel like that's what's missing.
It does feel like the upper echelons are not considered.
Yeah, it does.
It feels like 9 and 10. Nah. Don't care what goes on up there. And I know we are not talking about weapon nerfs today. I know that, and I'm not going to go on about it because, you know.
No, bring it up if you want to. Go ahead.
But you can feel it there. And a little preface to this chat: I don't play Breaker Incendiary. I didn't play Railgun back in the day. I do now. I don't play any of the things like the flamethrower that have been nerfed. So I've been really lucky. But it's very clear to see what they haven't been using the Breaker Incendiary in its current state in T10, because I've tried it for test purposes without a supply pack. It's garbage now.
Yeah.
And I don't use it, so I'm not saying it to like go, I want my gun back. I'm not saying that. I feel the empathy for the people that use it all the time, because it is garbage without a supply pack now, just because there's not enough bullets.
To add on to that, real quick. Oh, maybe we shouldn't get into the nerfs. We've been
Sorry,
talking about
can
that.
of worms. I had to say it.
To add on to that, though, because I already said it. To add on to that, the Breaker Incendiary ran into ammo problems before on high difficulty. Like, you had to, like, if you got into an extended engagement, you had to be around
100%.
supplies. I'm not saying you would run out of ammo, because you would be around supplies. It's not like ammo's inaccessible, but like already you had to be around supplies. All right.
Yep.
Anyways, so yeah, I feel like they should balance more around 7. One other thing I would like to see is give us a bit more time, or just make it so that we can kind of stop reinforcements a little bit better. I feel like every single bug on the bug side, every enemy can call in a reinforcement, and once they start, there's no stopping it. So I feel like that could also be a more of a skill thing, but that just doesn't feel like it exists. Jeff with the 10.
Exist.
Yeah.
Doesn't.
Jeff with the 10 says, would it be impossible for them to make each difficulty level have different weapon stats, ammo counts, etc.?
That would
Thank
be
you
a
so
lot
much
of
for the
work.
10, Jeff, but I
Thank
don't
you for the
think
10,
that will
Jeff.
happen.
I think the game's already made to not do that. Other games do that.
Yeah, my input there, Jeff, would be that you don't have to balance the game based on that methodology to make this all work. In fact, it's probably easier to balance the game's difficulty without having those different health points, because it's much easier to keep track of the kinds of like breakpoints you need to hit for different enemies, and then you can just dial in how many enemies and how much ammo you have at different levels of the game.
Yeah. Faze, you want to take that one?
Reddit with the 5 says, hey, Phaseshifter, did your hairline get buffed, or has Arrowhead still not noted this issue? Also, hey, Thick, my friend.
Oh, hey, Reddit.
Oh, thank you for the 5, man. Thank you for the 5.
Thanks for the 5, mate. Cheers for the comment as well.
So yeah, I think another sort of mini game for the higher level players to try to go through, because this was a big thing in Helldivers 1. I just bought Helldivers 1 recently, by the way. I'm gonna be playing that on stream. We're gonna make some videos comparing 1 to 2. But one thing I heard a lot in Helldivers 1 was that you could stop enemies from reinforcing, and that some people on higher difficulties like weren't able to do that, so the game became harder, which I think would be really cool. All right, so let's segue this into what can make the game more difficult. So what are some ways that we could see the difficulty heavily expanded upon? If we want the guns to feel good to shoot, what will give us a challenge? What will make your brain tingle while you're playing? Anybody want to start? I got some. Anybody want to start, though?
Go ahead.
No, you.
Go ahead and I'll
No,
follow.
you.
You go ahead.
Okay, so does it have to be like something that is already in the game? That's what I need to clarify.
I would say
like adjusted.
I would say let's try to leave realistic feedback. So
Okay.
go ahead.
I feel like in terms of difficulty, like just to make it naturally like a little bit more difficult, and also make it a little more fun at the same time, because not just difficult, right? And this will also tie to our point where we're not saying the game is like easy and it needs to be hard and it needs to be easier. We're just saying that something that makes sense in terms of difficulty, and also like actually having fun with the game, like shooting, killing all the time, like going crazy. And something that like that would be, and I don't think this would need a lot of change, because technically it is, the whole mechanic is in the game. Let's say if you take a look at the bug breaches, but maybe a mission type where you go in and there's like waves of enemies. Like, you know how in MMOs there's like a tower system, right? Like when you go from level 1, clear it, then level 2, clear it, and it just goes crazy and crazier. Something like that. And it just keeps going every, let's say, 5 levels of this, let's call it the tower. You get rewards, and it gets just crazier, and you can just spawn more and more breaches, and the breaches can be like spawning different kind of enemies and tougher enemies, and you can even let that go infinitely, and then whoever gets the highest, let's say if there's some crazy levels in it, people get cosmetic rewards, something like that. I think that would be nice. It wouldn't be necessarily hard to pull off, because everything that I just mentioned is literally in the game. Like they don't have to add any kind of new mechanic. It's just this amount of breaches on the first one, this amount on the second one. Third breach is going to be a lot of chargers, for example, then this, and let's see which team can push it to the limit. You know, I feel like that would be really cool.
Kind of like the rocket defenses that we already have.
Yeah, but like in an open area, and it's like there's no it's all about killing, just slay out, like no,
so like
position, just go crazy, you know?
Okay.
Do you remember like Serious Sam? This game,
No.
like an old game, old game.
Yeah.
Where it was like crazy, all about
Showing our
killing
age
shit.
here, bro. We're showing. our age
Yeah,
here.
exactly. 24 is old, but at that point, that's what I'm looking for, man. That would be a nice feeling.
Okay. I think me and you want to go. Let me go first, Phase.
No. Yeah, you go first.
Is it related to what Pip said?
No.
Okay. Me and Reginald were talking about this the other night before the podcast, obviously. The rocket defense missions, I think that those are somewhat challenging because it's like you're in a position, there's like a good setup of a base, and Reginald, I think you mentioned this in your video the other day, if we could have actual like bases, kind of like the automaton bases, where we have to defend, because it feels awesome when enemies are kind of coming in somewhere and you have to defend something, but turn that into a longer mission format. So kind of like a objective that we actually have to defend or we could fail, and like enemies are pouring in, but it would have to be done in a base. Like I feel like the nuke nursery missions where it's just a flat field and everything spawning in, if they were to make that destructible, I think that would suck. But if it's like the rocket defense, it would be much better on longer missions though.
Yeah, if I can jump in,
Yep.
I had this notion of sort of I had sort of two concepts after we talked that sort of came to mind. So like one would be, for example, a mission type where you know the mission where you're trying to blow up all the air staging facilities, and at the last component you have to go hack the tower and the tower blows up. That bot base is almost always on a big hill, and it's just like this very winding sort of defense mission, and it very frequently turns into a situation where you have to defend against an incoming wave because some bot got off a flare. Rather than making that flare based, you could make that kind of mission an intentional defense hold, right? Or a mission like it.
I think combining the geological survey with that.
Exactly, like the geological surveys. Geological surveys kind of really annoying right now because you're just in this open field and you just have to hope for the best. Whereas imagine you go to a position, you know you're about to trigger an incoming horde. You show up, there's defenses there. Maybe they're enemy defenses, maybe they're friendly defenses. It doesn't really matter. You get to summon in a list of, say, like when you get on site, you get a timer before the first enemy wave shows up. You get 4 to 6 single-use defensive stratagems, so the whole team can place mines or MG and HMG turrets that are like manable, and auto turrets and stuff like that. Maybe that hypothetically leaked SEAF trooper thing can get deployed, and you can set some troopers and deploy one section or another section, whatever it is, right? You can deploy these things out, set up your defense as part of a team, and then you have to deal with that sort of wave shooter experience where you're defending defensible positions with good cover that can't just be blown up and turned into flat terrain like all the extractions can. And now you get a really interesting like conflict, sort of like that Doom Guy picture where you're fighting and holding out. But it's inside of a mission. It's not just like one defense. It's you do this defense, then you move somewhere else, and then maybe you do a couple other objectives, then you do another defense or something like that.
Yeah. Devin, thank you for the 10, says make Firefight from Halo, where the longer you last, the more liberation is given to the planet. I would like that as a mission type. So I mentioned in an old balance talk I gave, let us spend like requisition slips to help liberate planet, like you're donating to the force. But actually a mission type where it's like the longer you hold out, the more liberation impact you get. I think liberation impact would take longer for them to fine tune, because that's like affecting their whole liberation system now. But I like that. I like that idea a lot too. All right,
cool idea.
FaZe had something as well.
Right, this one, I'm going to apologise in advance to you, Thick. It isn't maybe within the realms of possibility. I don't know. I'm not a game
Just
dev.
go ahead.
And chat, I really want to hear what you think about this, and I'll say I've got a very vivid imagination, so that's where this has kind of come from. But I think one of the primary areas that this game lacks is the depth of what you can actually do. Correct me if I'm wrong, but once you've got over around 300 to 500 hours in this game, it just starts to feel quite samey. I want more to do. So my idea would be introduce proper boss encounters with mechanics that actually require team coordination to complete. So an example that I came up with earlier was an automaton mainframe defense system. And it's like an arena type encounter, and you have to kind of, as a 4, set the mission off. And when you start the mission off, a little arena gets cordoned off with automaton style shields, and it triggers the boss. And you're effectively trapped within a gameplay area that you can't leave. And the fight has mechanics and phases. And this would obviously be up for discussion, but sort of key areas would be mechanics and phases. So a boss with a large health pool that changes its behavior across its health bar. So the more you damage it, the more it kind of changes. It requires all players to work together. Think like the Corlock Tyrant Weed from Deep Rock Galactic, or boss encounters from games like Remnant from the Ashes. If you played those games, you'll know where I'm going with this. It requires mechanical soundness. So you need to be able to shoot very particular parts of it at certain points in the fight to cause certain things to happen, to prevent an attack happening, much like when you have to shut down a breach or something like that. Or to progress the boss to the next phase, you have to be shooting a certain point, and it's very difficult to do that whilst waves of enemies are coming in. Demanding movement requirements. We've already talked about this. So strong positional awareness and understanding of how to overcome the encounter. Increasing layers of difficulty to this as you climb the difficulty levels that Arrowhead have already set out for us. So perhaps in the form of more damage output from the boss, wide array of attacks available to the boss to use against us, higher health pools, more demand on positional awareness. And you could have a similar kind of thing with the Terminus as well, like a Brood Queen or something like that. So it might not be that everybody likes that idea, but I'm certainly interested in just seeing what your thoughts are on this. It might not be possible, but I certainly think one of the things for me where the difficulty could be unearthed in this game is by giving us more to do. Not just drop in, drop out, run around a little bit, turn a switch on, turn a satellite dish, get out. Like, that's what it is at the moment.
Yeah.
So, thoughts?
Yeah.
I think that idea is sick. And if I can just say one additional thing, which is I think if you add some sort of method for managing aggro that a player can manipulate, that's going to be sick. Like, imagine you've got 2 people managing sort of the direct attention of the big bad, and then 2 people are off running some secondary objective inside that and getting attacked by basic mobs, right? Now you've got something complex and interesting that you can play with. And yeah, like, maybe those mobs should be easy, like, basic bots or whatever. But, like, you've got your 2 guys fighting the big boss. You've got your other 2 guys out there doing little side objectives, fighting basic enemies you can kill with primaries, whatever. They come back together. You've got a big boss fight for a bit, then they break apart again. That sounds really, really fun.
Yeah. It is. It is definitely fun. I think it's a great idea. But in order for any of what we're talking about to work, we need the basic changes first, right? Like, none of this literally works unless, for example, we start off with the enemies giving us some sign of their attacks. Imagine that kind of boss is added into the game, and there's none of that. Like, you don't know when the hit's happening. If you turn around for a second, you're gonna get slapped. There needs to be these basic changes that I would love to see first, and then like fix the core first. Like, let's get it to a good point, like to an 8 out of 10. Let's get it there. Let's fix the crashes a little bit, obviously, all that kind of stuff, and then let's build upon it, because this game can be one of the best games ever. It just needs to go in the right direction. But that's a fucking cool idea, though.
Of course.
Yeah, I totally agree.
Of course. So Reddit with the 2 says, can Phaseshifter's forehead be a boss? It already is. Thank you for the $2. Zanxis says, what Reginald said in HD1, there is a stratagem called a thumper. You can call it down. It thumps the grounds and draws patrols towards it. So, I mean, yeah, that would be great. Thank you, Zanxis, and thank you, Reddit. That would be great as well. Adding on to Phase's idea of a more interactive, like sort of raid boss sort of style of enemy, I would like to point out that an enemy like the Factory Strider, which is not quite a raid boss, and Phase, you mentioned this when we were talking about this podcast. When we see Factory Striders on our screen, it's just like, all right, everybody throw 3 airstrikes and it goes down. So I think they would.
Challenging.
I think they would have to make Well, I think fighting the factory strider with your weapons is actually really fun, and it is somewhat challenging because he spawns enemies that come at you and distract you, and then you have to manage his turrets. And I think factory strider is one of the better designed enemies they've made. So I would add on to your idea that the boss for a raid boss to work that way in this game, they would have to give it like very high armor to the point that airstrikes don't work on it, but then it gets an exposed weak spot and sort of like a DPS phase.
Yeah, so what if you had, like, the Factory Strider is actually a great basis for a raid encounter. Imagine if the Factory Strider was a little bit bigger on its own, absolutely gigantic, and like you just said, there are certain points in the fight where you have to do X amount of damage, and then it's backward open maybe, then you could call in the airstrikes, and its armor rating drops off for a moment, and you've got that window of time to do damage.
Yeah, similar to Destiny 2 bosses pretty much. Right, like you do some mechanical stuff. Yeah, raidy. Yeah, and
it is very raidy. And I don't want to use that phrase because I'm a massive MMO fan, and I don't want to be getting mistaken saying that I want this game to become a raid type MMO type game. That's not what I'm saying, but we all know, I mean, you could just look at Once Human, for example, whether you like that game or not. That game's done a fantastic job of taking a variety of different game genres and all the good kind of game systems from them and matching them together to make something really unique and interesting. Helldivers can borrow from other genres to make it better. And I think it would be naive for them not to when you look at the lay of the land now. It's hard to reinvent the wheel now. Games are games. You can borrow from other games and make interesting combinations. And that's something that I believe they could really benefit from.
You know, just to bounce off the Factory Strider conversation, the Factory Strider is a really cool enemy that is kind of in a weird spot because of the current game design. We, instead of having like 1 or 2 or like insane being like 3 Factory Striders, I've seen like 5 Factory Striders just get airdropped in all at once. And it's like, okay, cool. I'm just going to airstrike all of this. And now I'm not playing the game anymore. And I think what you could do to actually make the game like cooler, right, is I've talked about increasing the number of sort of gribbly and sort of garbage enemies on the ground and reducing the number of bigger enemies. But then you can make those bigger enemies much stronger. So, for example, you could make the Factory Strider call in be much more rare, but when it shows up, it comes equipped with a stratagem jammer. So now you have to shoot it with your weaponry first. And there's only one of them, but man, it's way scarier because it's stopping you from just airstriking it, right?
That's a really good idea. Yeah, a super equipped Factory Strider that comes with the stratagem jammer. Oh, that would be godly. And chat, don't be scared. Don't be scared. Only on the highest difficulty for us sweats.
Yeah. Again, like that idea of having the stratagem jammers, like what if there was an event where there's 4 stratagem jammers at 4 corners of this arena and you have to like take one down and it's only temporarily down and that opens up the damage window to put the stratagems in, then it comes back online and then the rotation starts again. You know, that would be getting a hell bomb in.
Yeah,
maybe,
yeah, like
I don't know. You know what I mean though?
Yeah,
like I know it's a good idea.
Like stratagem jammers that you can turn off but they turn back on. Jack with the $5 says, what do you guys think of super stratagems that take up 2 out of 4 of your slots but are way more powerful, like an Eagle airstrike but with a 500 kg? Jack, I would say if it's a support weapon that makes me feel strong, I'll take it. Anyone?
The concept of fun maximum damage support stratagems. What we have a solution to that problem though, which is some sort of jamming system, right? It doesn't even have to always be call-in jamming. So like you could hypothetically tweak stratagem jammers a little bit so that blue stratagems can come in, like support packs, weapons, things like that, but not attack stratagems. And that would allow you to have, say, that Factory Strider be an enemy you could fight and actually call in your attack on, right? But you can't get your airstrikes in. Because so now you have to actually do battle.
Maybe people would bring the shield generator relay. I know some of you guys do.
Yeah. And also, if you think about the bugs as well, like I don't know if anyone's a StarCraft fan here, but like the Zerg in StarCraft have a link to the psionic energy that Kerrigan has. There could be something with the bugs that was a kind of stratagem jammer type effect as well. I know we've got the ion storms, but like you could throw it in there as well and make it canon. It'd be pretty cool, I think. Quite interesting.
For sure. All right, so one other thing I would like to mention is tweaking the sort of how the enemies spawn. as well as some really like what actually kind of makes mobbing difficult. So to me, what makes mobbing difficult is when there's a bunch of light enemies, you're just mowing them down, right? And then something pops up. And and Arrowhead has actually talked about this before, how killing a charger by itself is not difficult. It's when you get the charger, then the stalker shows up and there's like 5 hunters nearby. That's where the difficulty comes in, because you have a plan to kill 5 hunters. You have a plan to kill 1 charger. If a stalker uncloaks itself, like, you're going to shoot him in the face. But it's when you combine these things. So one thing I've been asking for, and here's a fun little clip real quick, because when I was streaming the other night, a hacker joined my game and spawned infinite stalkers on us. So here's
Oh god.
here's some nightmare fuel,
brother. Sure, it wasn't just
God.
gold.
Here's some nightmare fuel for you guys.
Oh my god! If I'd known there was gonna be this, I would.
And as crazy as that looks,
Crazy.
And luckily I had my cookout on me. Luckily I had the cookout, which staggers. 1 million stalkers, okay, they will kill you eventually for sure, right? But it's the combination. So one thing I've actually been asking for in some of my balance documents is add like 5 or so stalkers to a bug breach, because it's when there's all these enemies in front of you. Like, I feel like when you're playing, if a stalker just randomly shows up while you're just like going to the next objective, like, you might freak out and be like, ooh, a stalker, but it's not that big of a deal. Like, you're just going to turn around and deal with the stalker, right? Unless he completely surprises you. But when the stalkers show up, when you're already mobbing, that's where the difficulty like really is.
I could also see a lot of people get like really frustrated with that too.
Well, only on the higher difficulties though.
Oh yeah, okay, yeah, I see that. I also think, like, in terms of like how the enemies spawn, I think that what would really make it so much cooler is like, you know how there's like so many bug breaches at all time, right? If the bug that was calling the breach, right? Like they go crazy, unkillable. You're shooting them. Sometimes you take their head off. They're still calling it. When they start that thing, it would be really cool if they kind of would go into like slow motion for like maybe 1 or 2 seconds, and you see this like red light, which gives you the window to take him out, and that will also show you that that's when you gotta kill him if you want the breach to not happen. And that would also create like a skill gap and give you the ability to kind of stop the breaches. It can be literally 1 second if they want to, but something to specify it, because sometimes, like, I was looking through my clips the other day, and this hunter starts calling, and I instantly kill him,
and he still calls it in. Yeah,
and it happens all the time. Yeah, so if there would be some kind of, like, you know how their games, like even in the Space Marines 2 trailers, you can see it. They kind of go stunned and they're glowing red, and you can run up and smash them. That kind of thing, right? Like, you don't have to run up and smash them, but like you have that window, boom, deal damage, and you kind of stop them from calling in.
Also, the bugs with no heads.
Telegraphing. Bots are a little better. They give you just like a split second, but like, and only some bots could call in is the other thing. All the bugs need to be able to call, which is just crazy. But hey, let's put an extra pin in that thought. Like, there needs to be some line of sight requirement on enemies calling in. You can be shooting a bug or a bot somewhere, and some guy in an entirely different like field will just like react to that and just launch a call in like right on top of you or whatever. And it can just be so annoying to be dealing with that. The enemy that's doing the call in has to be visible to you and has to be counterable and has to give you a split second to even react. And if you screw up the react, that's on you. And then at least you're like, oh, I messed up. Like, I'll do better next time. I have a mechanic to engage with now. But and there needs to be some sort of cooldown.
Somebody has to see it out of the team. Like, it can't just be nobody sees this one bug that like set up behind this mountain 500 meters away, and then it's just summoning. It's one of those things, once again, where it's out of your control, you know?
Yeah.
It feels terrible when that happens. And I'd really like it if there was some sort of cooldown. I'm not saying it has to be super long, but when I'm fighting bugs, sometimes I'll be chewing my way through a patrol. I'll kill like everybody, and then there's like that last guy from behind a rock that I couldn't see summons it. He can't see me. Okay, fine. And then like a few minutes later, I'm still fighting, or like a little bit later, maybe I kill him, right? I get lucky and I just kill him just as he's starting to call in, and then the bug right next to him just immediately calls in.
Yeah,
it's like,
yeah.
Many times. Right when you're reloading.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, they wait.
For sure. Wait, someone talk real quick.
Hello?
1 2 1
I'm
2.
here.
Oh, I thought my audio cut off. I heard a weird noise. All right, real quick. John with the £5 says the current progression system is too easy. Everything can be achieved too quickly and easily. Listen, brother, we all want the cut content of the weapon upgrade system. We're all here for it. Let us spend more samples, more progression. Give us great rewards. Rendar with the $2 says fun fights in DRG. Corlock, Tyrant Weed, Omen Tower.
Yep. 100% agree. They are absolute models for success, in my opinion. 100%.
And then Jack, thank you for another 5, says, what about evolved or upgraded support weapons like a railgun? But every 10 shots, you get a special round of ammo that can one-shot a Bile Titan. Listen, we've been messing around with ideas for like a super unsafe mode where it's like a random bar and then it kind of goes through it and and where the shot is changes every time. And if you hit that shot, you get to one-shot anything. But if you miss, it explodes.
Yeah, that's a cool idea, Jack, but I
don't think
doubt that will happen.
Yeah. Thank you for the 5, though.
Thank you.
Where was I going to take us? Oh, yeah. Okay, I remember. Someone in chat said it seems like they're just adding things for higher difficulty. So I want to make it clear what this stream is about because, you know, the whole Nerf Divers controversy and then people responding, you just want the game to be easy. This is the thing. We don't want the game to be easy. We want the game to be harder. But we also want the guns to feel good. And we want to give feedback for difficulty for the people who want to play with more difficulty. So these are modifiers for like levels 8, 9, and 10. Or if they add harder difficulties. And this way, they can make the game difficult for the higher difficulties instead of trying to make the game difficult because the guns feel like pea shooters. You get me? Zanxis with the dono.
Go ahead.
All right, yeah, let me read it real quick. It's funny because back in HD1, weapons have progression tree to unlock with samples that can customize them by making primary fun. Yeah, I feel like there was a lot of cut content. I know they worked on this game for a lot of years, but it seems like just a lot of stuff got cut. I mean, there were leaks for like weapon customizations and stuff like that. Thank you for the dono, Zanxis. I appreciate it. And Pips, what were you going to say?
No, I was gonna say about the progression. Obviously, that's one of the things, right? And before I say that, if they do, like when we're asking for these kind of changes to weapons, for all the people that keep saying like, "Oh, get good," whatever bullshit, guys, those weapons being good is also gonna benefit you. It's not. How is it gonna make the game worse for you? Why are you guys so afraid of making the weapons fun? You know, just make them good. Have fun on your difficulty 5 or 6. I think you'll have even a better time, even 7, whichever you play, doesn't matter. It's people can play on whichever difficulty they want. The fact is, all we're asking for is, if I want a running simulator, I'll download some Olympic game and I'll just run in a circle. And that's the point. I want to also shoot. You know, there's bugs around me. And please keep in mind, this is not a game like, for example, Destiny 2, where you go in a room and there's a set amount of spawns that you have. You have infinite enemies. So the biggest tool I have against these infinite enemies should be my weapons and my ammo. And they keep hitting it, and that's all we're asking. Like, just give us the ammo. Add enemies if you want. Just let me fight those infinite enemies. And if they run over me, let it be. I don't mind that at all. But I'll have a great time that way. That's it.
And I'll just read this again from the game director. Rethink our design approach to primary weapons and create a plan for making combat more engaging. So they have already said that, like, this sentence literally confirms their approach to primary weapons is that they feel bad, and everybody's complained about this, and they're going to rethink it. So we're giving feedback on how to make combat more engaging. Hunting with the $2 says quick/lazy difficulty modifier, no reinforcements. We have one of those.
Saying this.
Before, we've got lots of more ideas. Phase, I know you want to go, but guess what? It's time for the game show. Reginald, I don't know if you watched last week's podcast. We got the game show, Live or Dive. Reginald's a new guest. We should have made him play Who's That Stratagem, right? Right,
Yeah,
chat?
you've looked out there, man. You've looked out there big time.
Well, good for me.
All right. All right. Listen, chat. It's time to guess live or dive. We're going to play you a clip. There's going to be some multiple choice, and it's going to be a good time, I promise. Click play. All right. Looks like we got your average bots game. See what's going on. Shooting a couple bots. That looks like a 380 in the distance. So what do we think's gonna happen? Labyrinth tries to be cool like Thick. Labyrinth watches me die to a 380. Lab gets RKO'd by a rocket, or D launched across the map. Put in chat what you think it is, A, B, C, or D.
C, 100%. Let's go.
RKO'd by a rocket.
I'm going with B. I think you eat a direct hit from a 380.
Okay, Phase.
Yeah, direct hit from a 380.
So we got 2 Bs and 1 C. All right, let's see what happens.
Oh, he'd be dead. Oh, he's so dead. Oh, he's so dead.
Just so people use this one more.
Oh, yeah, it's the 380, isn't it? Yep. What was that?
Nope. Labyrinth tries to be cool like me. Look, there I am, laying in the middle of my 380. Listen, I memorized the pattern, guys. Go watch. What's his name? Cash Crop?
Yeah, his buddy of mine, Cash Crop. He did a video on the patterns.
I didn't memorize the pattern. I looked out.
I need supplies.
All right, we got another clip. This one's from Hydra. All right. Stealth Charger knocks him into his airstrike. Random Impaler Tentacle of Doom. 69 kill streak from the airstrike, which would be nice, or gets 1-2 comboed. What we thinking, boys?
I mean, you see 69, you go for 69, bro. I pick C.
All right.
I pick C.
C?
I vote A.
Phase, what do you pick?
C?
Okay, I see in chat B, C, B, all of the above. B, C, D, A.
C, chat, it's C.
What we thinking?
Lock in, chat.
What we thinking? All right, let's see.
C.
The 1-2 combo. I slowed this one down. Look at this. Look at this.
Oh my god.
Look at this.
What?
Literally, look at that. That's ridiculous.
Deleted! Forgotten.
All right,
Yeah, that was crazy. That was crazy.
That was ferocious.
that was
That
actually
was
crazy.
Wild.
Just insta
Where's my
death.
audio sting to let me know I need to dodge, huh?
I mean, you can't dodge that.
Damn.
That shit
Wouldn't have had a
happens.
chance.
That shit happens. All right, we got an autocannon versus Impaler. Does he get sent back to his Super Destroyer? One shot by the tentacle. Just kills the Impaler and the clip was bait. Or Trader Barrage.
How many shots are left in that autocannon?
It looks like just about half the clip.
Probably like, yeah.
It looks like half the
Okay.
clip.
You've already put 3 in. 2, 3.
What are we thinking on this one, chat? Sent back to Super Destroyer. One shot by the tentacle. Just kills
Yeah,
the
I'm gonna go
Impaler,
with
and I'm just
B.
baiting you guys. Or the Trader Barrage. Pip
Sent
says
back to
B.
Super Destroyer.
I'm going B.
Super Destroyer.
Reginald?
I'm going with E. You kill it in melee.
There's no E. It's A, B, C, or D.
Well, I guess technically that falls within the domain of C. You run out of ammo and then you go beat it in melee.
Okay. Let's see. Let's see what happens.
Sending in an eagle.
What a trajectory.
That is pretty crazy.
Back to the ship.
Reinforcing.
See you later.
My boy is the ship.
Look at that view, though.
Oh, damn, yeah.
I don't know. It
Yeah,
looks
you're up
like
there.
Trader detected.
Wait, is he coming
All in
back?
artillery.
This
He's
is a
gonna have
long
nice
clip,
artillery
man.
Strike on that ocean.
You rubber banding all the way back.
He's emoting.
Heavy.
He's emoting. Oh, he stands up.
Reinforcements. Eat this.
Swim! Go! Oh my! No way! He gets hit over there, bro.
Bro, he actually
oh my
died.
God!
Actually, he died to the Trader Barrage.
That's crazy. That's
All right.
crazy.
All right. For some reason,
He's
shooting.
cooked, bro.
For some reason, shooting an adjudicator at a charger, by the way, I think this was silly. All right, so A, democracy protects. B, crushing charge. C, everyone makes it home safe, smile.
No.
Or D,
No.
environment.
Hmm.
What are we
B's
thinking?
too obvious. I'm gonna go D.
Environment.
Yeah. Something weird happens. I don't know. Like something happens. Probably A though, because
Chat, what about
democracy protects.
what about everyone makes it
yeah.
home safe, smile? An actual dog thinks everyone makes it home safe, smile.
I'm going with A.
A, democracy
Having removed
protects.
0.1.5% of his armor with the adjudicator, he is now safe by democracy.
Okay, let's see.
Most likely it's that because Silly's flips are always that. He gets protected with that shit all the time.
He does.
Yeah.
Democracy protects, baby.
Yeah. I knew it. Yeah.
All right. We got another Chad autocannon user. Looks like he's going for some autocannon jumping.
Go.
All right. Does he die to impact? Stuck in the floor? Stealth charger?
Nah, if he gets stealth
Or-
charges, I will pass out.
He AC jumps into 8 hunters.
Oh my god, I want it to be D so much now. It has to be D.
What are we thinking?
I go D.
D? Phase?
Stuck in the floor.
Stuck in the floor? Pips and Reginald says D. Phase says stuck in the floor.
Yeah, it has to be, bro.
Let's go, Phase!
Let's him.
There we go. It had it written all over it.
It
The
did.
one way to survive in this game, huh?
It honestly
Get
did.
under the ground.
I think there's one more clip. All right. So this one, lining up a commando shot. Does he complete the side objective? Gunships ruin everything. Environment or cannon turret.
Nah. If cannon turret hits him, that would be so fucking funny. Has to be D.
D.
Come on, D, man. Like he randomly just gets slapped.
All right. Pip says cannon turret. Reginald
Please
says
be cannon
gunships
turret,
ruin
bro.
everything. Phase.
Yeah, D, cannon turret. I want to see it.
No,
Maybe-
I'm in the
maybe-
D camp as well.
Oh, everybody says
wanna see
cannon
it.
turret.
I want to see it. Come on.
But maybe he hits something that jumps in front of him or something. That would be also cool.
All right, actual dog called it out in chat. He was next to the flame thing on those new maps.
This environment.
I don't know. Okay. I don't know
Oh,
how
what happened to him, bro?
the flame
They're
things on the
weird.
swamp maps. Have you ran into one of those, Pips?
They are so badly telegraphed, though. You can't see them. They
No,
just
you can't.
torch you.
No,
They're
you
terrible.
can't. Yeah.
Rest in peace.
He's a UFO now. He hit the swamp gas.
Yeah, see ya,
Yeah.
man.
Yep. Alrighty. So to harp. All right. Everyone always gets confuzzled by liver dive. We forget what we're talking about. But what we're talking about is let's add some real difficulty to the game instead of us making shoot pea shooters. So where can we go with this? We got lots of notes here. We talked about enemies being in different areas of mobs. So like I said, like stalkers to bug breaches. Enemies that already do this already in the game are like impalers. Like obviously impalers need tuned up so they don't insta-kill you or send you back to the Super Destroyer. But I think impaler is actually a really cool enemy if it wasn't so messed up right now. Because like FaZe, you talked about this on the last podcast you were on. You were like, I wish there was something in the game that makes me feel like I have to stop what I'm doing and just like go fight it. Like it completely takes your attention away.
Well,
Yeah,
technically, it
step in
does
the right
stop what you're doing.
Yeah, it sends you to your Super Destroyer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, you're right. It is a step in the right direction. Aside from all the jank that people have already acknowledged, I think it's a really nice addition, and it does kind of have that level of it's scarier than a bile. It's scarier than any charger. It's a step in the right direction, 100%. More diversity of enemies like that, please. But I still think we need boss encounters on top of that.
For sure. All right, so some other ideas we had. We were brainstorming, obviously. Where is it? So I think if there was just more interactable objectives in general, and it was funny because Reginald said, "Don't give me an objective where I have to carry a jug." But I actually think if there was an objective where like one person, like there's like a destructible, let's say you have to carry barrels, like, you know, the barrels that blow up, and you have to stack them up to blow something up, right? But like you not across the map, but just across like a decent amount of space, and like one person can go carry and stack them up and the other players protect them. That's something that adds like more teamwork to the game as well.
Yeah, that would add teamwork, but I also think like instead of like make a player carry it, because players usually do enjoy just shooting shit, maybe there's something you can activate and that like kind of starts moving, like, you know, in different modes in games such as Overwatch, and you just protect it kind of until it gets to the point, maybe, because most people, instead of just carrying it, would probably prefer shooting, but you know, that could work too. Yeah.
I know we already have the data objectives for that, which allow you to use your secondary, which is a good compromise on carrying something and still being able to play the game. I am a little leery of escort style missions of any kind. I just think they tend to be annoying instead of engaging.
Yeah, I'm not a big fan either. Yeah.
My worry is you want to make objectives more complex, but the reality is as you make objectives more complex, it actually gets harder to fight the enemy and complete the objective,
Yes.
especially if there's only like one person left or two people left, which means that then if you only have a couple of respawns left or even none, you're in a situation where you can't really get those like really thrilling victories. You're just sort of gated out by the objective being annoying, right? Or too difficult to achieve. And so simpler objectives that are better oriented towards actually fighting the enemy around the objective would be better, in my view, than objectives that are more complex to handle. So that's where I was thinking, like, okay, let's get some defensive missions where you've got like holdouts and you've got missions where there's fortifications to defend, or you're going somewhere and maybe it's got multiple stages you have to achieve on the objective that involve fighting enemies to get to and from it. Like those, much in the same way that those raid bosses are talking about having different components you have to go tackle. All that stuff's really fun. But when you have to escort like some little robot that dies because you didn't kill like the one stalker fast enough or the one hunter fast enough, that always tends to feel bad in my view. And I think it's worth playing with. I'm not saying no, right? You can play with these ideas, you can dial them in to make them feel good. But I do tend to worry that they're going to add too much frustration rather than entertainment. So that's my concern.
That's fair. Not quite Jack with the $2. Thank you again, Jack. Says, I just want to put decals on my helmet and weapon. Any chaos divers in the chat? I gotta admit, listen, if you're a chaos diver, stop griefing people's games. But I gotta admit that chaos diver logo's sick, and I think I'm gonna become a chaos diver myself. Just saying.
I mean, you do grief.
Only my friends, though.
Speaking of getting griefed, another way we could increase difficulty is by creating like hunter-killer squads that like drop in or drop down or hunt you across the map and will basically jump scare you to make you fight them.
So like stalker patrols.
Like stalker patrols, yeah. But maybe they would have an idea of where you are and come for you, you know, and they would be summoned in after like a certain amount of heat is generated on the map. So like you've done enough stuff, and all of a sudden they're like, okay, they're out there somewhere. We don't know exactly where they are, but the Hunter's Killer Squad is going to find you. Right?
Did you know that's pretty much how stalkers work? If you get within, it's like stalkers work exactly like mortars. If you get within 160 meters, they spawn out of their nest and they hunt you down.
I like
didn't know
it.
That, actually.
I didn't know they worked like mortars.
Yeah, they work exactly. Everything works like mortars. Impalers as well. Impaler tentacles can hunt you 160 meters away.
Oh, that's awesome.
Dabo in the chat mentioned in Helldivers 1 there was a bring back the payload mission, and it was on a railway. You pushed it and protected it from enemies. There was a leaked payload mission as well. I also think some of the earlier missions, like when we activated the TCS, that mission was like at least interesting. I know some people were frustrated with it, but that mission like came into the game and it was gone within like a week. So I feel like some of the missions they removed could like probably need to come back, and the dark matter jetpack for that matter, because we all love it. All right, so another thing I would like to mention that was added with Escalation of Freedom was the new bot side objective, destroy the human blender. I feel like there's something they need to do with that. That makes it way cooler because it's literally just a side objective that you could just shoot with your primary weapon and then move on, which seemed a little bit weird to me.
Mm.
I don't know. What have you guys even noticed that?
I haven't even noticed that. As I said, like I played a little bit of bots on Super Helldive and I bounced immediately.
Yeah. One thing I do think is cool though that they added with Escalation of Freedom, I feel like people are upset with it because it doesn't give great rewards. Carrying the egg back to the Super Destroyer, carrying the robot
Great
head,
idea.
or carrying
Great idea.
the backpack. Those are genuinely good ideas
Cool.
and good objectives.
Very, very cool. I like them a lot too.
Yeah,
I like them a lot.
I think the only disappointment was the great reward thing. But if it wasn't a great reward and they just said, like, this is the new main mission, go around the map and carry freaking 10 eggs back to the Super Destroyer, like, and you know what I mean? And then, like, defend extraction and make sure they all get in the ship somehow. Like, that could be better as an actual, like, sort of main objective.
It just needed to be higher numbers from the beginning and it would have been fine. Everybody would have loved it.
Yeah.
Everybody. Yeah.
I agree. All right, so
What if it was tied to? Sorry. What if it was tied to? What if it was tied to cosmetics? Getting some special cosmetics or something that you can only get from.
I think it's too easy
think?
for that. Yeah, I think it's too easy for that. Like if you tie cosmetics to something, it has to be much harder. It's just something that gives the players the ability to show off that they completed something that was really hard. I think just getting eggs and you know what I mean.
Yeah,
It's too
fair
easy.
enough.
Yeah.
Look at this. I got it for bringing an egg. Yeah, I get.
Yeah.
Uncle Ulysses says we're about to get some cool new missions from the Gloom. When do bots receive the same attention? That's definitely true. Definitely true. We might see some new missions. I've been saying as well that you know how Helldivers rolls. They don't always put things immediately in the patch. Sometimes it rolls out. Like when the Shriekers came, everyone was like, all of a sudden we're fighting flying bugs. All right, so one thing I wanted to go over was Claysthetics. We've had him on the podcast before. Some of you guys know him, some of you don't. But Clay has been someone who leaves balanced feedback docs pretty much every patch. He's in the description if you're watching this after we're done streaming. But he has a lot of feedback in here for making the game more difficult. So here we go. Here's his section on game difficulty. And by the way, this feedback doc was from a month or two ago, so it's not to the current patch, but there's still a lot of good ideas in here. So he said, remove game modifiers that take stratagems away, which they finally did, and actually add better modifiers. So here are some shown enemy modifiers that could add to higher difficulty. We've already talked about heavy stalker infestations. All right, let me make this full screen. Acid chargers, which are in the game now. Endless bile titans, but weaker variants. Big chargers, small bile titans. Double breaches. Stalkers replacing hunters. Hive guard heavy. Every enemy death rattles in a frenzy, so they get faster and more damage. Gunship patrols, which got added to the game. Automaton snipers. One I really like is nursing spewers die and they spawn smaller bugs. That would be nightmare fuel once again. Martyrdom, automatons drop grenades on death. Heavy tanks, heavy hulks, like fabricators can spawn hulks instead of soldiers. Bug emergence holes that become a dynamic objective to take out or get overwhelmed. If I remember when he was explaining this on stream, it's sort of like a nest that can kind of spawn in a random area. So like bug holes can just pop up, like when you're running between objectives.
Okay.
All bugs explode in acid. Heavy minefields. This one would just be annoying. Fire resistant enemies like a Hellmire mutation, but it also adds a weakness to something else. Bile artillery and nursing should just be a shown modifier. True. More invisible enemies. And then a heavy berserker or Hulk melee automaton. And then a sidearms only mode, but only light enemies. Here's one that I've been saying: add Pitch Black Night. I swear they said this in the Escalation of Freedom trailer.
That's cool.
That
is cool, bro.
Yeah, and you would be able to see with your gun's flashlight. So like,
oh my god, that would be so scary.
a pitch black mode, but you can look around with your flashlight. And of course, if this ends up on the bot side of things, don't give them aimbot through the dark. I think this one might only work for bugs.
This one would be insane on the bugs in a dark room.
Yeah.
Oh my god,
a lot of guns don't have flashlights. This is a problem in Dark Tide. So you'd have to make sure that you have some way to see when you need to use like your auto cannon or something.
Well, yeah. This would be a modifier. I also think like it could just add another level of difficulty. Like maybe like you can ping stuff too in the dark. Like in fogs when you can't see, sometimes I'll just ping bots and then fire my autocannon at them. So
yeah, and
that is a good point to bring up for sure. Like if you switch to like, I don't think support weapons have flashlights at all, do they?
I mean, you can like literally big ball it and just not even care, just go in.
You always could do that.
Yeah.
Do they have? Can you see in this game? I forget if it's dark because I don't. Yeah, it's been a minute since I played on a map dark enough to care. But can you see other people's flashlighted objects? Because if so, then you can have someone be your spotter.
You can. Yeah.
Oh yeah, true. Someone could be your spotter. Someone in chat said, "Give Cookout a flashlight." It is a flashlight.
Yeah.
It's literally a flashlight. Low gravity. I don't know how I'd feel about low gravity. Rich atmosphere. You move twice as fast, but so do enemies. Seif outposts. If you rescue the troops, they will assist you. I like this idea a lot. Tons of support weapons everywhere. Ion storms should affect bots. The black hole effect, which was the bug with the democratic detonation weapons. I think they should add that to the purifier. Spawn Skitator. Clay, you in chat. Destroyed outposts that you can hold out in. We talked about this. And then some other positives for Helldivers, so like experimental concussive rounds for all the weapons, experimental stems, think like a speed buff or an instant death, double ammo, faster cooldowns, +1 stratagem, rocket boots, active reloads, Gears of War. I haven't played Gears of War recently. What's active reloads?
I don't remember.
I haven't played it for years.
It's when you play a little mini game and you reload better if you get it right, and you reload worse if you don't.
Okay. You play a mini game, like you have to click the reload button at certain times?
Yeah, so you hit reload and then it pulls up a little like button or something, and then if you hit it, then you hit reload again, and you can either hit within like a little timer, and if you do it right, faster reload, do it wrong, worse reload.
Like a golf game.
Yeah, like a golf game.
Okay. More pickups for ammo, etc. on the planet, abandoned vehicles, experimental weapon pickups. I think experimental weapon pickups is a great way they could test like buffs or nerfs to weapons. Like, let's say they wanted to buff or they wanted to nerf a gun. Like put it on the planet first. Like everyone talks about test servers, but like put a buffed or a nerfed version of a gun on the planet for players to pick up. And you could get real data from this, and then they could decide to do it or not. That would be really cool. More free stratagems, of course, and turrets fire faster and have more ammo. So, like, these are kind of examples of modifiers. I feel like everybody complained about -1 stratagem, orbital scatter, because those also felt like sort of cheap modifiers. Like, it's not fun to just take a stratagem away. But there could be some more like really good positives and negatives.
Yeah, like for example,
instead of tons of support weapons everywhere, just throw in with the idea here. What if there's just weapons everywhere of all types, but you have no ammo drops, and so you can't get new ammo. You just have to pick up new.
You have to pick up new guns. That could be a fun mode. I mean, I could see them adding some really cool game modes like that. That actually is really cool. I like that idea. So a few more. Go ahead, Phase.
I was just. It's probably a bit of a segue, but I mentioned. Excuse me. I mentioned before we started the pod the self-found mode. So no stratagem picks allowed. You find them as you progress through the mission, and they're random. Acquire them by attacking points of interest and securing them. So you build up your build, as you play, and there would be that element of negotiation, like, oh, your setup's better for this now. Why don't you take the airstrike and I'll take the autocannon and just build your Helldiver as you progress. It would be a bit of a meme play style and a bit of a meme play mode, but it could work.
That's like a roguelike version of this game.
Yeah, I guess.
It's the kind of modifier that makes things fun, though. You drop in and you've
Yeah.
got some shenanigans to deal with. I think that's great. I think it would be. I think you want to have things where like you're going into the experience and it's a different experience, but it's not. You never want to be in the situation like we had with the random stratagems where everything's just like super randomized, right? Like you can pick up different random stratagems and that's fine because you'll be able to at least use them consistently once you get them. Maybe it spawns a higher average number of SEAF artillery pieces on that type of map mode too, right? Just so that you can make sure you've got stratagems to use. But like, you never want things to be highly randomized. You want the player to always have a lot of agency, and then you want to whittle them down to a loss through attrition. That way you're losing the game fairly because you screwed up, not because the game just screwed you. And that's always what you want. And so like being able to pick up random stratagems is fun. I don't have a problem with that as long as I get to drop in with the equipment that I want, right? I get my gun.
So just to cut it down the middle, that would be great as an additional game mode rather than difficulty. Because I like roguelikes too. That's an amazing idea as like a specific game mode. It's like, okay, let's go play roguelike real quick. That would be really cool.
Yeah. And I think that's what the game boils down to at the moment. There's just more things to do, like in your play session on Helldivers. You know,
For sure.
oh, should we do some roguelike for a bit? Yeah, cool. Why not? Like when I keep saying MMOs, but like when you play an MMO, it's like, do you want to do some PvP? Do you want to go do some world bosses? Do you want to go and do a raid? Do you want to go and do a dungeon? Like, there's different things to do, and I'm not saying Helldivers should be like an MMO, but just having the options there to keep us engaged with the game is pretty important, I would say. Helldivers auto chess, that's a great suggestion.
You know, I will say that that Vermintide has a mode. Vermintide 2 has a mode called Chaos Wastes that is sort of similar to this, where it's sort of a campaign, and you go on a campaign, you build up your kit as you go, right?
Yeah.
I'm not saying that's like really fun mode. That would require a lot of extra building probably for Helldivers. Maybe that's a year 3 thing or whatever. I don't know, but it's a cool concept. I will say that one of the problems that does seem to be coming up fairly frequently that I hear people say is like the game is a little shallow, which is something I certainly experienced when I started playing. And the notion I had there is we need, aside from telegraphing, which will add complexity because you can up the number of enemies and then have that telegraphing. Another thing you can do is add complexity to the weapons. Like we had the really cool like fragmentation from the eruptor where you could like bounce it off walls and stuff. Why not the flamer too? Like they changed the way the flamer works so that it no longer pierces enemies. Okay, fine. Then they said it could bounce off stuff. But the way it bounces off stuff, it just sort of hits it, just sprays around and does nothing, right? Like what if it was an actual stream and you could ricochet it off of like a bunker a bot is in into the bunker, right? Now you've got like mechanics you can play with. And so anything you could do to add complexity to the weapons is great. And I'm going to bang on my hobby horse for one more minute here. I really want the break action shotgun to be a real stratagem. If you don't mind, I love that stupid thing. It's really fun to use, but I would really like to see it have multiple types of ammo. We've got this cool wheel that you can use to have ammo. So imagine you scroll wheel up, you change the top barrel's ammo type. You scroll wheel down, you change the bottom barrel's ammo type. Now you've got 2 different types of ammos to play with for each of your shells. That'd be so sick. And that's just complexity, right? That's things you can play with to do entertaining things.
I saw your video on that.
I had to get it in here, all right?
No, it's cool. Rio with the $5. This one's for you, Reginald. He says, so cool to see Reginald make it to the experience. His vids made me the Western Front enjoyer I am today. I hope he gets to come back on. Of course.
Thank you so much, Rio. And thanks for having me on here. It was really
fun. Man. We will have you back as well. But we're not done yet, are we? One thing I want to throw out there when it just comes to kind of tweaking the enemy spawns and whatnot. One thing I think that they could look at on higher difficulties is when there's a bug breach, and you know how there's like 5 different. What are you doing, Pips? There's like there's like 5.
My bad.
I'm just messing with you. There's like 5 different spawns where they kind of all spawn out of. I think that they could set those further apart, because one thing I see always happening is that like the spawns are generally in the same area, and then everybody just throws their airstrikes and like gets all these big kills. Well, what if you have like the spawns just more spread out in general?
Do you mean for in general bug breaches?
And bot call-ins as well.
Like spread out, like for example, like if we're as a team fighting, do you mean that the bug breaches happen? If we're talking about bug breaches for a second, they happen too close to each other. Is that what you mean?
Yeah, I feel like on like obviously higher difficulty thing, they happen really close to each other, do they not? And then what? You throw like like 3 people throw napalms in that direction, and it makes them easier to deal with.
I think I wouldn't even mind it the way it is, but if they would add that thing that I was talking about, like where I had a chance to counter it, like the inability of me not having I'm not able to do anything pretty much, right? I can't. Sometimes I don't see it. And even if I see it, if I'm like a second late, I'm missing the window, which by the way, I don't even know when the window is. It's just like, I got to shoot and get lucky. But if that was that thing where we could just counter it somehow, man, that would be cool, I think.
You know, just playing off of this notion of like attacking patrols and killing breaches and summons before they, get called in and that kind of stuff. One thing that I talked about in my video, making stealth more real, right? And one thing that we have with this heat map system in the game right now is as you complete objectives, the heat just goes up and more enemies spawn and more patrols spawn and stuff like that. There's actually no way to reduce heat on the map. What if there was sort of a breakpoint in map heat where before you get to that breakpoint, the enemy doesn't know there are Helldivers on the field, right? That's sort of the theory, right? Enemies don't know there's Helldivers in the field. It could just be local resistance. They don't know, whatever it is, right? And then as you break that threshold, now the enemy knows there's Helldivers in the field, and you can't reset the heat down past that point, right? That threshold is the limit. But prior to that threshold, let's say you ambush a patrol and you kill everything before a call-in is done. The game doesn't just like spawn another patrol. The game thinks that patrol is still alive because they don't know there's Helldivers in the area killing their patrols. Now there's an incentive to actually go and take those ambush engagements. There's an incentive to play the game in the tactical way the devs want, because now you can reduce heat. You can reduce attention to yourself by effectively eliminating a group of enemies without actually like being noticed. But if you screw it up, things get worse for you.
Yeah.
Right?
It's all good ideas, man. But I feel like all of these ideas are really good, right? But implementing them, I think that right now, and that's the question I want to ask, but I'm not going to ask it until ThiccFilA is done with this section. And then I need to remember that I want to ask this question, okay?
Just ask it now.
I was going to ask, okay, I'm going to go ahead then. The main question in my head right now is, all of these are really nice ideas, right? I think chat agrees. We've had our ideas. Everybody's enjoying whatever they hear right now. I think it's going to be a great addition to the game. But the main question is, when will this realistically even happen? Right? Like that for me is the main question. Like we know that's not happening the next 2 months for sure. Then we got the Illuminates, hopefully this year. So when is all of this going to be added? Because if we're talking about these ideas and they're really cool, but they got added in a year, is it a good thing in a year?
Pips, you're bringing out all the doom chatters. Look at everyone in chat saying never, never.
No, because the reason I ask, because I don't think it's gonna be never. I think these things will be added eventually, but I'm hoping that it's just added. And this also comes from the place of like, I really enjoy the game, bro. Like if I didn't enjoy the game, we wouldn't be doing this, right? Like all of us do. That's why we're doing this. So I want the game to do well. So if I'm just thinking, if this happens in the next, let's say at least some of the ideas in the next 3 months, 4 months, it would be incredibly good. But I don't think it should be like, it should take a year, man. I think that's too long.
So as an easy answer, obviously everything we're spitballing, like a lot of this stuff just isn't going to ever be in the game. Let's be real. But easy answer is our aim within the next 60 days. And one thing on the list is redesign our approach to primary weapons and create a plan for making combat more engaging. So obviously everything we talked about isn't even going to make it in the game. Some stuff we talked about could make it in the game. And then a few things, like I mean, they said 60 days. So, I mean, they mentioned right here themselves, a plan for making combat more engaging. You know what I mean?
But what does that mean though? Like, see, that's
sort of the
always
stuff we're
thing.
talking about.
Yeah, but it's a little bit vague, isn't it? Like, okay,
Yeah.
but if your redesign approach, let's say, still doesn't match the design approach of the players, majority of players, then is it gonna be good even if it's done in 20 days? You know what I mean? I think, and they mentioned this thing where they said they needed more feedback. That was kind of what scared me a little bit, but that's a different topic, so I'm not gonna get into that right now.
Yeah, I mean, I could probably shine a little light on this as well. Like, so I work as a product manager. That's like my day job, and that means that I work with dev teams on making products. Right? That's just like what I do. And they're going to be having meetings that sound an awful like the one we're having right now, to be perfectly honest. And they're going to be trying to figure out what people want and what would appeal to the widest massive audience, and also simultaneously have a good benefit to other groups of players. And so, how long is it going to take? Well, it depends on what their backlog looks like and what they're working on. Right? Some stuff, the stuff that's easy, is stuff that's numbers changes. So, like, I was watching ThiccFilA's video yesterday about again, actually, about the weapons and their balance. So, like, for example, the all these balance problems that where they're like all these weapons are like 5 damage away from a key breakpoint for an extra bullet kill for like having to shoot a second time or a third time. That is a number change. That is that like depends on how they're architected, right? I don't know if they have like an XML where all the files are, all the weapons are, and it can just be bonked up real quick. But like even if it's not, even if it requires a full release to do it, that is so easy. They just need to go through what they could do, and this is what I would do as if I was in charge. I would just go like, all right, cool. Let's just take all these weapons and push them over the breakpoint, and let's just see how the game plays. Let's just try it, right? Put it in test, play it out, try it out, see how it goes. And then if we like it, just give it to the players. Like bump up like a third of the weapons that much, and just see what the players think of
all
that
of the
weapons. And then put a poll out there and get feedback. And then if it works on that first third of the weapons, do the rest. Like
Tim, you're making way too much sense, bro.
Well, that test server would be really useful, wouldn't it? Having the test server that they've talked about would be very helpful for testing stuff like that.
Super helpful. Also, we could all really use, I know this is a big ask, but like if you add a gun range to this game so that I can shoot the enemies and test out the breakpoints, I can go from giving you stupid, like, I don't know, something like this kind of advice to like, do this. Because you've got a huge player base full of really engaged players. You should leverage that. This is actually like one of the things that boggles my mind. I'm sorry, I'm going to rant for like 2 more seconds. Game people are some of the most communicative about what they like and don't like. They are just so happy to tell you in detail all this information. And all you got to do is just like go listen to them for a little bit. You don't have to listen to everything they say and agree with everything they say. You just listen to them a little bit, and then you go back to your little cave and you figure out what you can actually do with your team and how you might tweak it to be a little better, right? And you figure out what's going to actually really work. But like, there's so much information out there. Just go listen to them for like 5 minutes. Give them some tools to test for you, and they will just like sit around and do it, right? So, man.
Yeah, but the thing is, they don't like. I feel not all of them, but I think part of the team just doesn't like exactly what you said, which is do it. That's the part they don't like. They want it to be in a way the way they want it to be. And this hasn't just been a thing in this game, right? Like if you look across the board, you look at like when Warzone 2 got released, right? Like everybody really disliked how it was, and they keep pushing whatever they wanted to push, and then the player numbers were really bad. And in a year, literally a year after that, they added every single change that the player base was asking anyway, and then the game became better.
Like
I feel
WoW
like
Classic as well. You think you do, but you don't. The infamous quote from J. Allen Brack.
Borderlands 3.
Yeah, it's so many examples like that, and I think that's what it is. And I think in Arrowhead though, there's a bunch of people that actually agree with us, and there's some people that don't, and probably the people that don't have more kind of control over this shit. I would assume.
I mean, you're probably right. Getting alignment inside a team is always hard.
Exactly.
And it's not a bad thing that people argue about it. The problem is you have to go out and you have to actually get information from your customer. And the thing people forget in the gaming industry a lot that I see is people seem to forget that their customer is a bunch of gamers, right?
Yep.
And if they don't listen to them at all, you're going to just have your player base decline, and then you're going to lose money. And so that should be your source of whether or not you're doing a good job, is whether or not your customers are happy. Now they've clearly reacted to the latest round of feedback, right? And I will say that compared to some of the other games that I'm interested in, the development cycle of Arrowhead is actually very impressive. I think they're pretty fast. And so I think it's reasonable for them to look at us and say, hey, 60 days, we can do these things. I think they can probably deliver. Now, I don't know what they're going to have to sacrifice to do that. They're going to have to sacrifice some things. There's always sacrifices. But I think it's realistic to say that they can achieve a lot of what they put on their list in the time they can do it from what I've seen from them. Their update schedule has been pretty crazy from my perspective and very impressive. And I've liked what they've done, and I've seen them constantly iterate and improve. Even though I know a lot of people get mad about some of the decisions they make, totally fair on that point. They seem to have the development cycle in a position where they can shift focus, get stuff done, and crank out changes that will make people happy pretty quickly. And I would just remind them, since I have this weird platform for a second, that if there's value changes that can be pushed out quickly, they should focus on those first because they're easy and they can get positive feedback to the client base very quickly. Yeah. Hence my notion on like a third of the weapons.
To add to that, Reginald, that's one reason I made it a very strong point to talk about things that could just be added to the game very quick. Like we spitballed a bunch of ideas, new mission types, whatever. But like stalkers and bug breaches, spreading breaches out more so they're more difficult to deal with, staggering the time of which breaches come in. Like if you guys make the guns feel good to shoot at the enemies, you can spawn more enemies. And that's another reason I talked about adding distraction style enemies. So like stalkers, the new rocket striders like distract me when I'm fighting a bunch of devastators. The second I see a rocket strider, I know I need to kill him. Impalers, another great enemy. Like as long as they fix the infinite ragdoll and the insta kills, they could spawn more impalers. Let's be real. As long as they fix the insta kill, I mean, like obviously it's not perfect, but like stuff like that could be also added very quickly. So like, I don't know. That's how I feel.
Yeah, I feel like some of the things that Reginald was saying is definitely true. But I also think that a lot of things they're not really fast at. Like, for example, if you take some of the problems that have been in the game since day one, which is the friend list and the connections and the disconnects and stuff, that's still in the game. And yes, they've made some updates. And yes, they've added a lot of war bonds. But it was almost like quantity over quality because a lot of the war bonds that they added or stuff weren't really that well developed. They weren't really well balanced. Some of them thought that the Purifier was S tier. I'm not going to get into it. But it's like there's definitely was some miscalculation on their part. Like it's really is the case. And even in this case where we're saying that they listened, and once again, I'm not trying to be like disrespectful or anything, but for me, it's business and it is damage control. Like when you get so much negative feedback, you have to say something. If you sold a shoe for like 100,000 of them, and then let's say 80,000 of people told you that shoe sucked, you would make a statement and say, "Oh, guys, we're fixing this in 2 months." So to me, I'm the kind of person. Okay, I'll listen, but words mean nothing. I'm gonna wait for your actions, and if I see that you do well, I will be the first one to support you. But I'm not gonna, sit here and get, oh yes, it's happening. I've done that before in other games, and I'm kind of over it.
Pips,
I want them to put in the work.
We did that before 2 months ago in this game.
Yeah,
Rendar with the $2 says save Eagle 1 mission for roguelike mode. A roguelike game mode would be dope. I've been saying add more game modes. Okay, I want some prop hunt in this game. Let me hide as a scavenger and Pips has to run around and find me.
ThiccFilA calling you like in the dark, looking for you.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
So I just want to agree with Pip actually on this point, which is that I'm not just gonna like get hype for these changes like coming across the door really like immediately or being good when they're deployed. And he's right. They did release a lot of war bonds pretty quickly, and that's awesome. But they also did fail to deliver good war bonds a number of times. Like some of them were just kind of flops. And that's the reality. But I do think that, for example, like the social hub bug, right? Like that issue is I can just tell, considering how long it's been around and what it looks like is probably going on just from like the outside, is that looks like a hairy problem to solve. So you don't maybe start there, right? Maybe what you do is you go, okay, let's get the players to a position where they're kind of happier. So let's like do those numeric tweaks to the primaries right now, like as quick as we can. Let's get that right out the door. Then,
Yeah.
okay, players are happy again. We get some bugs in the backlog to start working their way through, right? Those bigger bugs, because they're going to take some time. Let's get a dedicated team on that, maybe like 2 guys who are really
Yeah,
good. Right?
give the players the bare minimum of the primary weapons that they've wanted for so many months, so we don't have to play a running simulator. And now you have a good start, because like a lot of people will forget everything. Oh, guys, they buffed it. It's finally happening. They've learned their lesson. Let's go. Now the emotions change. Everything shifts. You have momentum on your side, and from there on, build up. The problem is that's not going to happen.
Me personally, like, I don't want to just see a big buff patch. That honestly, like, as stupid as it sounds at this point, that kind of like obviously I'll probably still play the game. Like, I have a YouTube channel covering the game, and when I play with my friends, even right now, the game's fun. But it's like, I want them to admit they were wrong. Okay, we get it. Like, you guys release bad weapons in the war bond, and you guys nerf weapons, and that's from your viewpoint that the primary weapons should suck. But like, the slugger always was mid. Does anyone here think the slugger was ever S tier?
But that's a point, Phila, right?
No, that's what I'm saying. I want them to say, we were wrong. We're unnerfing this. We were wrong about the railgun. We're unnerfing the stuff we did to it. Like, and here's the other thing too. I'm not even saying like the railgun never needed a nerf. Like, if anything, I think like safe mode could have got nerfed, but unsafe mode should have been fine. You know what I mean? Like, I think like removing safe mode or making safe mode like only do armor pierce 4, not a lot of damage. Like, that's cool. But like the other nerfs to the railgun, I would like to see them be like, we were wrong. I think the railgun needs stagger. Campbell's with a gifted membership. Thank you, Campbell's.
But you are right. So thank you for the gifted.
I don't think they would do that, but that's what I think would restore the goodwill.
Yes, I agree.
Because
I agree 100%.
That's where the goodwill is at. That's where the players are losing the trust. That would restore trust.
Yeah,
they don't feel listened to. People don't feel listened to, and that, whether it's gaming or not, we've all not been listened to at some point. Whether it be in a meeting, whether it be at school, whatever it might be. When you don't feel like you are being listened to, when you are giving someone your attention or money or care, that makes you feel bad. And I'm
100%. It's human nature. Yeah.
I'm one of those people, and those of you that have watched my stuff will know I'm largely pretty positive about this game. But even I'm starting to fatigue now, and I'm a pretty positive person with it. And like, I have so much empathy for a lot of people now who are now complaining, because I'm starting to get it, and it's because you can just see it falling on deaf ears over and over again, and the goodwill has gone. And Silky just made a really good point. A big buff patch isn't going to remedy this. Because at the end of the day, yes, we'd have all the weapons to use for a couple of weeks, but there's nothing else there.
Yeah, but it gives them the ability to have momentum. They need the shift, right? Because now, bro, you can open up any video of just type in Helldivers 2 right now. You open up, you go in the comment section. Like, there was I was checking Asmongold's clip from like 5 months ago. And I switched the comments to new. The first few comments was, well, now it's all nerfed, doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Literally the first few comments.
That's my comment section. That's my comment section now.
That's everybody's. And that's why they need to showcase that we're willing to change, because it's not happening. And I understand 60 days, but the communication was still vague, and we don't know what it's going to be because we've already heard it. So in people's head, it's like, oh, yeah, whatever. They said this. They already said this before also. But Phila, I wanted to ask a question. Wasn't there somebody before, or am I tripping? Before the polar Warbond came out, didn't somebody say that some of the weapons on the Warbond were S tier?
Yeah.
Yes.
They did, right?
One of the devs.
Yeah. But that's the thing. Like, if just let that sink in.
Like, they trolled him though on purpose.
No.
Wasn't there a thing?
There's no way. There's no way. No. I think they just played on difficulty 2, and they were like, this shit destroys everything. I would assume.
I think it's fully possible that a different team nerfed the method for the flamers as opposed to the team that was testing the flamers. I bet something like that happened.
Reginald, some people said that to me in my stream. Here's the thing. I would be willing to give that benefit of the doubt if the Fire Warbond didn't come out at the same time. Because obviously they fixed that right in time so that the Torture didn't melt chargers through the leg. And
Yeah,
I've always
look-
said the Tort, like, it makes sense. They don't want a primary weapon to kill chargers so easily through the front, through the leg. That makes sense. The only thing that doesn't make sense is there's zero compensation for the flamethrower. And they had to know.
Oh yeah.
They had to know that fix was coming. The whole team had to know. There's no way.
I think that it's very plausible that the person who said this is S tier was playing before that patch was put in and was like, this is awesome, right? And then what happens is you get the fix put in, the guy who's on top, which would usually be like the product person or the design person or whatever, is looking at it and they're testing and they're like, yep, I got everything I asked for. But nobody talked to that person, and that person maybe didn't even play and didn't know that, oh, this just like totally neuters the gun now, right? And so that's how that kind of stuff happens. Like it's left hand not knowing what the right hand is doing very frequently. It's possible that they just like they played it on like difficulty 5 and were like, this is sick, I'm so good at the game, and they didn't know. But I'd wager it was more like somebody made a process and review mistake.
Yeah, well,
And then
that's even worse then, right?
Well, yeah, absolutely. But I mean,
Yeah.
that kind of stuff happens all the time. So it's
Yeah.
like,
And it's also like yeah, I don't know, man. Like the even the flame changes, like that's what really got to me. And I would love to hear your guys' thoughts on this. There is no way they didn't know what they were doing when they put it under miscellaneous, right? There's just I don't know.
no, I agree.
There's no way
Chat,
that was
can
like
I-
a mistake.
Can I say real quick, because it's obviously been brought up, I say this all the time, do not blame specifically Alexis. And I said this whenever the news about Alexis was dropping. Alexis was the one dev, okay, that communicated with us, and then everybody had blamed Alexis to the point where now he doesn't type in the Discord anymore. Wouldn't you guys rather a dev tell us that they think the
100%,
guns
yeah.
are S tier? Because then we can logically argue with them, but it's like this one dev has been witch hunted. It's clearly a company-wide thing. Like, if we just look at this, it says we have to rethink our design approach. Like, it's the whole balance team. It's not just one dev. That was the one dev who was talking to us.
Just him, right? Who's making the
It's
decisions.
not.
It's
Yeah,
not
no
like
way.
he's
It's not.
No way. That's not how it works.
Sauron sitting up there and swinging his like rings and being like, "Oh, everybody." It's not gonna be like that. It's a team thing probably, and there could have been many cases where he was saying something different, and something that we would like, and the other guys were saying something that we didn't like, and that happened. So you never really know what's going on behind the scenes. All we can speculate off of is what gets to us, and that's literally what we're doing.
I agree. And I think it's definitely fine to call out some of the comments that Alexis made about some of the balance choices, because he did tell us some of their philosophy of how they want the primaries to feel, how they said, like, Polar Patriots, a lot of the guns were S tier, and I think he did say that with some sarcasm. I think he did say that with some sarcasm, like, he was just trying to get people excited for sure. And my one video where I said Polar Patriots actually was a good war bond was my most disliked video ever. Ever. Not even just for this game ever. It was my most disliked video ever.
That war bond, I hated it, bro.
I know, because you don't like
you
the
don't
pummeler.
like the pummeler. Why do you like the pummeler?
I'll be honest with you guys too.
It's the
No,
pummeler.
listen.
It's not the whole war bond though.
Listen, I still stand by this argument, by the way, because I truly think it was the advertising for that war bond that was horrible. It's a winter war bond. The booster, what's the booster? Resist slow from like hunters or whatever. Like
Forgettable.
the booster had nothing to do with weather. Imagine the booster was like, you're immune to blizzards, right? Like, I think it was the advertising. The Purifier was one-shotting Scout Striders, and then after that war bond, the patch came out which buffed Scout Striders so they couldn't get one-shotted by the Purifier. Like, I think it was the advertising, because if you think about it, every war... Well, hold on. Every war bond that's come out, there was one good gun, two really mid guns, and then, like, one other good thing. So in Polar Patriots, there was one good gun, the Pummeler. There was the Verdict and the Fire Grenades, which are both decent, and then two bad primaries. That's been every war bond that's come out. They've all been buffed or nerfed later. Like, look at Democratic Detonation now. What's
Yeah,
in
but
there that you
democratic-
like? Just grenade pistol?
Bro, democratic detonation on launch? Are
Yeah,
you
on
kidding me?
launch
It
was amazing.
awesome.
But that was the
Yeah.
only good one. Was cutting edge
but-
good on launch?
And so cutting edge had sickle and had the grenade. Sickle's still
And
great.
Polar
Grenade
Patriots. Polar Patriots
was
had
ass.
pummeler and the grenade.
What? Who uses that grenade?
Put a 1 in chat if you
Polar-
use incendiary impacts. People love that grenade.
Polar
What?
Patriots had one thing that was good about it, which was that ugly as sin blue and orange uniform that I love.
It was literally just pummeler. That was
Look at all the
decent,
ones.
And because
Look at all the
because it
ones.
was so overhyped, and sorry, it was overhyped because everything else was so trash
Shut
in
up.
that war bond. That pummeler looked like a god amongst men, and pummeler was.
I
good,
still
don't
main
get me wrong.
pummeler. I still main pummeler.
It was at least A tier, right? I'm gonna be honest. Even though I
S-tier.
didn't like it, but to justify, like in general, not that one, but the fact that we hang on to one item per war bond to make it like good or decent is that where the bar is too low. Like that's the problem with the game in general.
Look, that's another good point too, because I also think that Polar Patriots was the tipping point of people being like, we want better war bonds. Like the armor, there's no new armor effects in it. But that's been the same for most of the war bonds. Like Cutting Edge had the arc armor, which was the only unique armor. Well, now we have the fire armor. And like it was the tipping point where people were like, okay, we're sick of mid war bonds. That's what I think. I think it was a tipping point, and I also think it was just bad advertising. Like the Tenderizer, they said it was high caliber rounds, but it was literally Liberator with less bullets and better recoil.
Yeah, I don't know.
Relic
for
in
me,
chat said that we should do Cyberpunk 2077 style smart guns, and I think that's a hilarious idea. It would not make the game easier or harder. It would make the game easier, but it would be funny, and I think that would be amusing.
Yeah.
I don't, when a new war bond is dropping, bro, I feel like there should be excitement. Like even take the latest war bond. Like yeah, it's the same shit. Cookout's good, and I don't know, CRISPR can be good, but I don't know. They just need to stop having this fear.
The fire armor needs to just be purely immune.
Look, I'm just gonna give some free advice here. When you drop a new paid war bond, make things a little OP. You can dial it back a little.
Literally every game ever does that too.
Uh-huh.
Like every game.
That's fine.
Destiny 2 would nerf classes before the expansion, literally, and make the upcoming classes completely overpowered. I'm not even saying like, oh, it's okay. No. Broken. That's how good they were. And you would have insane amounts of fun for like 2 months, month and a half. And then they would kind of tone it down, you know?
I'm like, yeah, tone it down. Like, that's fine. We can all understand like a gentle, not a sledgehammer, a gentle nerf to bring things in line with the rest of the game. But like, just like let it be a little too strong on launch so that I can just like, oh man, this is ridiculous. You know, have those funny moments with the guys, and then fine, it gets nerfed and everybody goes back to doing whatever they want, whatever they find is most interesting. Which, I mean, this game has a ton of weapons options, and most of them aren't usable because they're all so bad, which is why, this is like the number one complaint we all have is like, they're just, I mean, you can use them. Like, we all know you can technically use them, but like, they're not really competitive, right? And so, look, to the point Pips was making about like whether or not we're going to have some faith in the team, to the point whether or not we're going to feel like this game is going in the right direction, the first thing they should do as quick as they can is just like take 2 or even 3 weapons and just quick buff those guys up over those breakpoints. Get them out the door as quick as you can. Fix it. I don't care. Let us all know that you are trying to solve the problem. We just want to see progress. You don't have to fix everything. Just a couple fixes, real quick. Nail it. Move us along. Let's get us going in the right direction quickly so we can all get in there and start having some fun. And every time you do that, new weapons are going to be playable.
Video Game On with the $10 says the balance team either needs to go back to re-education camp or get replaced. I'd prefer they got to stay, except Balance King. Something needs to change. Being the next FromSoft needs to be earned. Video Game On, thank you for the $10. I think they all just need re-education camp. That's where the Chaos Divers spawned from, because Super Earth isn't giving us reliable primary weaponry. It is what it is. Thank you for the $10, Video Game Mom. All right, boys. Where are we going with this?
I don't know. I'm just one last thing I'll say is that once again, people need to understand like a lot like one of my latest video, it's like at a like 95% like rate or whatever, right? So most of the people agree with what we had to say in that video, but people need to understand, right? Where none of this is coming from a point where we're hating on the game or anything. I just want this to really get across. It's literally because we play this game a lot. We love this game. We appreciate the game. We're passionate about the game, and we just wanted to go in the direction where the majority of people wanted to go. And hopefully it does that, because if it does, it has huge potential, bro. Huge potential to bring back 150,000 people playing daily again. But there's not many chances left. So if you guys are listening, man, it's all love, but please make those little changes to get the trust back, and you're on your way from there to greatness. And don't be afraid to do that, because I promise you, players using primary weapons to have fun and killing bugs will not kill your game. It just won't. It will make it more fun, and everybody's going to be playing more. That's it.
For sure. For sure. And that was the whole point of this episode, because we've all left our thoughts on the balance of weapons. Arrowhead said they're already going to rethink their design approach to primary weapons. And these are our thoughts on how to actually make the game difficult on the higher difficulties. You know, for players who do want to have a chill time on level 7, because maybe they got home from work and they just want to collect some samples easier for the night, you know, let it be. But like, just make the hard modes much harder rather than like just making the enemies into bullet sponges. You could watch tons of YouTube videos or just critiques on games of bullet sponge being a bad mechanic for bosses. Like people always say like, oh, this boss is just a bullet sponge. They're talking about the bosses in those games. Every enemy we fight feels like a bullet sponge.
Yeah.
And I feel like, you know, Pilestep mentioned time to kill being too high, being his thoughts on where everyone's coming from. And I feel like just once again, make the enemy, like I would rather kill 10 easy mobs than one tough mob. So like, because then it feels like you have more impact. It's all about feeling like you have more impact, more player agency and stuff like that. Isaac, thank you for the 5. He says, I'm a hate watcher. Me too, Isaac. All right, boys. I think that about does it. I think we talked about everything we want to talk about. Reginald, thank you for coming on. First time.
Appreciate you, man.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me on.
Definitely.
It's a pleasure.
And FaZe, thanks for coming back, man. We'll have both of you back again. Don't worry.
Absolute pleasure as always. Thank you.
Pips, about to go live. Yeah. We're going to go raid Pips.
I'm going to go live. Chat, thank you so much for showing up. I will talk to you guys later. Boys, it was a pleasure today on the podcast. Thank you so much. I'll go start up the stream.
See you soon,
Love
bro.
You guys.
Go watch the stream, folks.
Go watch the
Great seeing
stream.
everybody in chat. Have a wonderful day. Bye.
Later, guys. All right, chat. Pips is going to go live. We're going to raid Pips. Thank you guys for coming on the stream. Hold on. Little ad spotlight again. Guys, get your Helldivers keychains. Video Game Mom, thank you for the $5. Also, I'm going to go live later tonight. I'm going to play some Helldivers 1. I've been planning on making some content of the differences from Helldivers 1 to Helldivers 2. Zinni says, can't wait for the HD1 stream. Thank you for the $5, Video Game Mom. If you're watching the stream from afterwards, all the links are in the description. Video Game Mom says their game used to be praised for being your own personal action movie. That's what I think too. Because, like, I feel like everyone calls this game cinematic, which is crazy because there's no cutscenes. There's no cinematography, right? I don't know. I feel like it just all boils down to make the guns fun to use, but make the game harder. Because anybody who says they don't want the game to be easy, like, I'm sorry, but you're coming from the point of view as if the game is hard to begin with. Would the streaming title be The Illuminate Have Come? Yeah, don't worry, I'll clickbait. HD1's very tempting. I play HD1 with my kids. Yeah, we'll get Reginald back on, Jacob, as well. You a smart one. I got you guys in chat. All right, stick around. We're going to raid Pips. If anyone else wants to talk for a few minutes, send some messages. Where you guys at? What time will you be live? I don't know. I'm going to go chill out for a little bit. I'm going to let Pips stream. Game went from being cinematic to running simulator. Like, chat, what was your favorite time in this game? When there was 10 Biotitans on your screen, but you could one-shot them all with the railgun? Like, wasn't that fun? Like, we can all agree that was overpowered. It was due to a bug. That bug needed to be fixed, okay? Right? Right? That bug needed to be fixed. But, like, that was a lot of fun. Greatest HD2 podcast. Great work. I appreciate it, Big J. Can't wait for the HD1 stream. You go live when I go to bed. Don't worry, Pips is going live. We want something chaos with powerful weapons. People think tedium and annoyances equals difficulty. Yeah, it doesn't. Plus, like, here's the other thing, too. No one's asking for overpowered weapons. Zero, like, okay, some people are. But realistically, what we're asking for is take the worst guns and make them feel like the best guns. And the best guns are not overpowered. They're just not. If the Liberator Penetrator is the lowest damage weapon in the game, but it has 10 mags. I fire 1 bullet today, got 6 drop shit called in on me. It was BS. Has to be when they were 350 of us on Durgin fighting the last automaton, so we thought. Effective weapons aren't overpowered. Like, I think the Breaker Incendiary could have gotten a nerf, but it's like, why take its mags away? That just feels so cheap. About time you did H1. Yeah, we're going to stream Helldivers 1 later. I'm not sure if Arrowhead themselves would consider firing any of their balance team. The only thing they're firing are their community manager. No, I think, like I've been saying, guys, Arrowhead's like balance philosophy of the game they're trying to create is consistent throughout their whole team. It's not like one person over at Arrowhead is sabotaging them, right? I mean, if that's happening, they need to figure it out, but I don't think so. I don't think so, because I've seen other comments from Arrowhead on Reddit. I've seen other comments from them all over the place. I've seen comments from other people who work at Arrowhead on Discord. That is not the case, in my opinion. But yeah, go follow the other people who were on today. I know a lot of you have seen Reginald's videos. I know, I mean, you guys, we're going to go raid MrPipz. Go follow Phase as well. I got to call it, though. I have to pee really bad. I've had to pee for like 45 minutes. We're going to go raid MrPipz. Thank you guys for hanging out. I'll see you guys later. Appreciate it. Peace.